Welcome back to the Headless Hour, everyone. This is episode 9. Once again, he has returned from his hiatus. I think that's how it's pronounced. We have the King Plunder here.
Hello, everyone. It's wonderful to be back. It's been too long. Too long.
It has been very long. I think it's been like a year, right? Or no?
I think it's been a bit more.
It might be, yeah, it might be
Been a
longer
bit
than a
more.
year, dude. Dude, my last guest was a very shocking
I know.
individual. Dude.
Let's just say that I listened to that podcast and I was shocked. Inside of my room, I was very shocked.
Yeah, he's, the things he said about,
Homeless people.
yeah, I mean, it was crazy. He shouldn't have been saying those things. He shouldn't have.
I'd be surprised if he still has his job today.
Yeah, no, I hope he does. And I'm actually going to contact his employers and probably have a talk with them because, I've done a lot of soul searching, that I platform someone like that, and I just can't, I can't let something like that stand, dude. It's freaking insane.
And, I was listening to that podcast, and I was with a few members of the opposite sex.
Mm-hmm.
And let's just say that they did not like what he had to say.
Yeah,
they
no.
did not like what he had to
Yeah,
say.
I showed it to some of my, friends who, are homeless. And I have homeless friends because I care about them deeply. I don't let them live in my house, but I have homeless friends.
Yeah.
And I showed them, and they were like, "This guy, he shouldn't be allowed to say these things.
Yeah,
we
no.
think he should be locked up." That's what he
So
said.
I'm currently in Denver, right, finishing up my graduate level education.
Wow.
And there's this one street in Denver where there's a bunch, like a shit ton of homeless people.
Yeah.
And I remember I was listening to that podcast, and I'm like, what would be funny or just like interesting, like as a social experiment? I was playing it in my car at full volume while I was driving down that street. And let's just say that those homeless people, they threw the last food that they had at me because they were so appalled by what that man was saying.
Yeah, no, yeah, totally. I had a similar experience. I saw a homeless guy on the street, right? Mm-hmm. And clearly, I mean, he didn't say this, he didn't verbalize this, but I'm somewhat of an empath. I can tell these things, right? So he came up to me and he took out his gun, right? And he said, "Give me your money," right? Because he felt so wronged by what I had platformed that he was like, "Dude, this guy, he owes me something."
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
100%.
And he was completely right. I did something wrong. And
How much you give him? How much you give him?
I gave him, like a couple bands, a couple bands.
I mean, as you should, because this is my opinion. This is your podcast, and I feel very grateful to be on your podcast. But if you were to have him on the podcast again, I think you should ask for like a public apology.
I should actually, because it was uncalled for, right? Because I brought him on to talk about his career, right? Because I wanted to get to know the work he's been doing in the entertainment business. But he came on and he decided, you know what? I have a vendetta against people who, they haven't had a good life. They've had a bad life, and I don't know what was going on in his head, but he just wanted to take it out on them, and it was sick. It was sick behavior.
Yeah. Well, the past is the past. So, let's get into the topic of today's podcast. I don't think we should dwell on that
Yeah.
mistake of a person.
You're right. You're completely right. So something I wanted to actually discuss is you have been, you've been taking some examinations, all right? So fill in the audience and what you've been up to. Why have you been gone for so long, right?
So, I've been on my grind, focused,
Wow.
I'm up at 4 a.m. every day, every
Yeah.
single day. And as soon as I wake up, I'm on it. I'm at my table studying high yield facts, just studying facts that I see on the interwebs.
Wow.
And for those of you who might need a refresher, I'm studying graduate level medicine. And I most recently took one of the hardest exams, ever created. It's a step 2 exam for medicine.
Wow.
And I studied for that for, over 6 months, more than 6 months. And essentially I would wake up, like I said, at 4 a.m., use the pisser, and just get straight to it. I wouldn't even eat.
Wow. You would study fasted. You would study fasted is what you're saying?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. And to be honest with you, One thing that I learned when I used to, play sport, swimming, you know, uh, the the idea or the culture was that the day before your swim meet, you would shave your legs,
Of course.
you would shave
Yeah.
your hair.
Yeah.
And let's just say that a lot of those kids would do that, would actually unironically shave their legs for a high school swim meet.
Wow.
And the idea behind that is, you've been training all of this time with your hair and it's making you slower, but you're training with a deficit, right? It's like you're training with weight on you. But as soon as you get to that swim meet, and you'll see all of the, the professional swimmers, they shave their entire body.
They're often very smooth. I
They're
agree
very
with this.
smooth, yeah. And so once they get to the swim meet, they're the fastest that they can be.
Of course.
And I'd like to translate that into my own life. Studying, on a deficit, you're hungry, you're sad. Sometimes I would even study naked.
Wow.
Actually, the few days before my exam, I took a practice test fully naked right after having taken a shower with the window open.
Yeah.
And I was shivering.
Yeah, totally.
And the idea behind that was to be at a deficit. So that when I took my exam and I was wearing clothes and I wasn't shivering,
You would outperform. What
I would
you
outperform.
Do. Yeah.
Exactly.
No, this
Exactly.
is completely true to my experience as well. So I've actually engaged in similar practices, in my life. So, for example, right, I often record podcasts, right? And during a podcast recording, you're in the flow state. But what I do to get into the flow state before a podcast is I actually strip myself of all my clothes. I don't eat. And then what I do is I take a cold shower, right? Very cold, actually. And then as soon as I finish the cold shower, I get into the sauna, right? And I have a sauna in my house because I make a lot of money. And what happens in the sauna is all the liquids that are in my body, they soon leave me, right? I become liquidless, right? I think the medical terminology is dehydration.
Yep.
Okay.
So you
okay.
pissing in the shower?
Wait, what? What was
You
that?
you pissing in the shower?
Yes, I am.
Okay,
Yeah,
respect,
yes, of
respect.
course. And also in swimming pools, right?
yeah.
Because
You have to, you have
yeah,
to.
because if I didn't do that, no one would ever clean the swimming pool.
Exactly.
And then just the jobs that would be lost in this country
Yeah.
would be just
Yeah.
massive.
You're really giving jobs to the illegals.
Yes. Actually, I prefer to call them Mexicans.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't say that. I don't know who. I think the previous
been the
guest.
wind,
Yeah,
yeah.
must have been the wind. No, but I mean, I put myself in these difficult, strenuous situations so that when I'm actually recording, right, things just go smooth, right? So, for example, I go to the grocery store and I make people uncomfortable because when I'm in the flow state, anyone can say anything to me and I can riff with it, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure you've practiced this as well in the
All the
hospital
time.
setting. Yeah.
Yeah, when I'm with patients, they say something and I riff with it. right?
Exactly,
You say
exactly.
something and you test the boundaries.
Yes.
You always want to see how far you can push someone.
Of course,
Right?
yeah.
So you say something, they might not like it, and then you take that. You take that and you're like, okay, next time on the podcast, that's something I do want to say.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, like, for example, when that homeless guy took out the gun, right? Because the previous guest was such a bad guy. What happened actually in my head was I was grateful because I was thinking, wow, what a story, right? What a story I can share with the world about. You shouldn't be cruel to these people because they'll hurt you because you hurt them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a perfect topic, actually. To segue from this topic to another, so you actually have been putting in the work, right? You have a undisclosed, we won't share the name, but you have a side business, a side hustle,
yeah.
if you will. Let me just move the microphone closer just in case. Will this work? I don't know. You have a side hustle that you've been working on. It's related to medicine.
Yeah.
Why don't you fill in the audience about that on that?
Yeah, so you go on Instagram, right, and you see all of those business reels,
Of
those
course.
Sigma business reels
Yeah,
about,
yeah.
you know, having a side hustle, sitting in the back bench, you know, taking that time to lose focus on what the white person in the front of the class is trying to tell
Yeah,
you,
yeah.
because it's gentrified,
Of
doesn't
course.
really exist.
Yeah.
You know, I'll be sitting at the back of my class and there'll be this white person just telling me what, like, diabetes is.
Wow.
And
Wow.
I'm not going to believe a single thing that
Yeah,
that
I
person...
mean,
like,
they
what,
lie.
what do they know
They
about
lie.
diabetes,
They lie.
right? What do they know about my experience? What do they know about the POC's experience?
Exactly,
Nothing.
yeah.
Nothing. So, you know, that during that time, I have my headphones in. I'm studying. I'm learning about business. I'm connecting with people. You know, Luke Belmar.
Yeah. I've studied his film.
Yeah. Johnny Walker, right?
Yeah, Johnny Walker.
I'm always on that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm always buying that just in case Tristan Tate comes over.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
So,
of course.
but either way, I'm studying the trends, and I'm pretty chronically in line. And I realize that, you know, I have a gift, a God-given gift, not just to help people, but to identify what's popular, what's a good meme, you know, what's trending.
Yeah.
And essentially, I merged that. I merged medicinal education with sort of what the young bucks call brain rot.
Of course, yeah.
And essentially, we put that together in this sort of Instagram format, and lo and behold, it became a niche unto itself. And now we have so many followers, so many people just thanking us that, you know, we're not like a white person trying to teach you about, like, I don't know, like muscular tendinopathies or anything. You know, we're part of the culture. We're part of the young bucks trying to teach even younger bucks
Wow.
about medicine.
Yeah, because these old you know Caucasians who
Yeah.
often, you know, they control academia, you
Yeah.
know, and they don't know how to speak to the youth, right? They might explain, you know, diabetes as, you know, oh, this is insulin resistance, right? That's what they might say. Whereas the people who are young, right? They prefer to be explained this in more youthful lingo, right?
Yeah, like
ho-
type shit.
Yeah,
Type
yeah,
shit.
exactly.
You just say like you know, like diabetes is insulin resistance type shit.
Exactly.
And then that shit goes hard. Like,
Exactly.
they
I
like
mean,
that.
it makes so much more sense
Yeah.
because if you say insulin resistance, I mean, these are just noises you're making with your mouth, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
it
there's
means
no
nothing.
the
Like, it
sentence
means
doesn't even
nothing.
end. I mean, what?
Resistance to what?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. I mean, insulin. What is insulin, right? And now you have all this other stuff you have to worry about, yeah.
Exactly.
Whereas if you append that with what was the phrase you used actually?
Type shit.
Oh yeah, yes. This is like an exclamation point. It's like, did you hear what I just said? Right? And then people will listen to it, and they'll be, you know, they'll just be way more immersed.
100%.
Yeah, in the subject matter. I've actually noticed similar things in the comedy scene, right? So there are often these urban. They're these urban comedians, right? And so they could tell a joke, and they could just go and say the joke without mentioning race, and it would be funny, it would be fine, maybe it'd get some laughs, but they like to say white people. Right, and then the whole crowd's like, you know what? I completely agree. This is one of the funniest things I ever heard. This joke is the same, but they add in white people, and you know, just the whole world comes together, and they're like, you know what? I will laugh.
We can
at
all
this.
we can
Yeah.
all get behind that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, just today, while we were coming to the studio that I own, we saw some whites actually biking with fishing rods.
Yeah, that was ridiculous. That was ridiculous.
I mean, it was out of a movie. I mean,
like,
it was,
why?
Yeah,
Why?
I mean, like,
And for the audience, I just want to paint a picture to you. We were, you know, driving, planning out, you know, what we would talk about today.
Yeah.
Although we don't plan everything.
Yeah, I mean,
some of this is a lot of this is off the riff.
Yeah.
But let's just say that to our left on the sidewalk, we saw, I think it was four white individuals.
Yeah.
Riding a bike, holding a fishing rod. And let's just say that there isn't a body of water like anywhere near us.
yeah.
So the only conclusion that we could come to is that these white people were up to no good.
Yeah,
I mean, what else could they be doing?
Yeah, you all know what I think they were doing?
Let's see.
They were going to take the fishing rod, they were going to hook a minority, and they were going to reel them in. I think that's what they're going to do. I think
Yeah.
I think these
I
are
agree.
I think these are racist
I mean,
folks.
I mean, it's Trump's America now.
It is.
So
It is.
that would make 100% sense.
I mean, what shocked me, I mean, as you said, there was no body of water near us, right? So these are whites, the biking with fishing rods with no water nearby. I was blown, dude. I was shocked. How could this happen?
Yeah, like why? And get this. They were four cis males. All right, they were cis.
It was
so
crazy.
One of them was probably trying to hook up a minority.
Yeah.
The other one was trying to hook up a transgender.
Oh my goodness,
Right.
yeah. And a queer too, and a queer.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
And God knows what they would be doing with those individuals.
Yeah, I mean, they'd probably cook them and eat them.
Yeah.
I mean, this is what they do.
I mean, yeah, they're barbaric. You know,
Yeah, I
this
mean-
this is what the Romans like warned us of.
Dude, I mean, George Washington had slave teeth. He had
Really?
the teeth of slaves, all right? And so, I mean, you can only imagine what these, white folk are going to do once they reel in those POCs.
Now I'm wondering. So the average IQ, and I'm a medicine graduate student, so I know
course.
about IQs.
Yeah.
And let's just say that the IQs of those four individuals with those fishing rods cannot have been above 70.
I mean, it must have been as high as a fish, right?
Yeah.
Because you are what you eat.
Exactly, and they have fishing rods.
Yeah, they must
But
be eating fish.
I'm wondering what their tactic is. Like, how do you think they would reel in a minority?
Oh, this is actually a great question. I'm actually not too sure. I think what they might do is, so I mean, obviously, POCs, they don't trust white folk, all right, because white folk are not trustworthy. So I think what they would do is I think what they do is they put the bike somewhere, right? And of course, POCs love bikes. Oftentimes, if you leave your bike in the city, a POC will see this and be like, this is a cool vehicle. Let me take this.
Yep.
And they don't mean badly by it. They
Yep.
just like riding bikes. So the whites will actually leave the bike on a sidewalk, right?
Like as bait.
Exactly, as bait, and a POC will just be walking because they love to walk in public at night, and they'll see this bike, right, and they'll be like, "Let me get on this bike," right,
Yeah.
and already they're gonna reel them in.
Yeah,
'Cause,
that's it.
Yeah, hook, line, and sinker. I
Yeah.
think is what they say.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, that's probably the only way to do it, and it's just sad, back in 2022 or something, whenever it was Biden's America, you would
Yeah,
never
yeah.
see something like that.
No, you would never. I mean,
You'd never see something like that.
I think fishing was illegal back then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he outlawed that.
I think no, genuinely, I think because of the virus, I think actually I don't know if it's because of the virus. I think there's been like this environmental concern of overfishing, right? And it's mostly white people who do fishing, from my knowledge.
Yep.
So they're killing the fish, right? So they ran out of fish. Okay, great.
So what are they going to move on to?
Yeah,
now?
exactly. Yeah.
Wow.
It's sick. It's actually sick. I mean, when I saw this, I was like, I mean, this can't be happening. This is my city, and this is happening. I have to stop this. So yeah.
The funny thing about that is what we also saw was an abundant number of signs outside of these public places.
Yeah.
Like more signs than usual. And I'm wondering if, any one of those people are going to step up and
Exactly.
tell them white
Yeah.
people to stop fishing for minorities.
Yeah. I mean, so the signs you're referring to are these. They're these political signs, right?
Yeah.
So it's like vote for John Smith. Vote for Jerome Johnson, right?
Davis, yeah.
Yeah. And so. Normally, I mean, you see these signs, and I assume the goal is that you internalize their name, right? But I see the signs for everyone, and they're all together, right? So do I vote for all of them? I don't know. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with these signs. What I think I'm going to do is I'm going to take pictures of every single sign, and I'm going to go on their websites. I'm going to contact them, and I think I'm going to let them know, and I think you should do this too, and the audience should also call your local representative and let them know, these white people, they have to stop fishing. It's gone on for too long.
Well, I think with the history of this podcast, we like to make fun and joke and stuff, but when we see something that's, actually making
Society worse.
society worse,
Yeah.
actually hurting people, right? We want to step up. So to the audience that's listening, please, contact your local representative and tell them to tell white people to stop fishing for POCs.
Yeah, I mean, it's just deranged behavior. I mean, in your head, could you even come up with that idea if you didn't see it? Like, how could these people be fishing for minorities, dude? It's crazy. I mean, I'm just at a loss for words. I think we're gonna have to do something about this because I think our president, he's really emboldening these people to act in these outlandish ways.
I think so.
Yeah.
This is really reminding me of the January 6th terrorist attack
Oh yeah.
on this country.
Dude, thank God for Stephen Colbert that day. Dude.
Yeah, Stephen Colbert, John Oliver,
Yeah.
Representative Ilhan Omar,
Seth Meyers.
Bernie Sanders.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree with you. Actually, I mean, first of all, Derek Chauvin, I think he is appealing his case. He's currently in the Tucson federal prison, everyone.
Really?
Yeah, he is. He is. I mean, it's what he did that day was sick, obviously. But he might get out, right? And what I'm worried about is, so recently there's been this effort by Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, and a few other of these high-level tech geniuses that they were so distraught by what white people did in 2020 that they brought George Floyd back, right? So I believe it's George Droid. No, yes.
I've heard of this.
Exactly. So George Droid came back, right? And so and Derek Chauvin has been locked up. So justice has been served, right? So I mean, we felt good for a few years. I was like, you know what? Finally, like, the world has been made right. But now Derek Chauvin, he might get out, right? And now I'm so concerned for George Droid's safety. I mean, this is actually
they're gonna go to war.
Yeah, I mean, this could be dangerous.
It will be like RoboCop 5.
Exactly, dude. No, I mean, I'm honestly really worried because, with all these judges that are presidents, I'm not gonna, say his name, right? But our president has been putting these judges in who might, they might actually let Derek Chauvin out. Right?
Really?
Yeah, and
Wow.
then so George Droid is going to be, they might come after George Droid, and
That's horrific.
yeah, I mean, I follow multiple fan accounts of George Droid online.
Yeah.
I think the work that Silicon Valley has done to, bring him back has been remarkable, right? But now you're seeing these white folk fishing for minorities. You're
Yeah.
seeing these judges being put in. I mean, I'm just worried. I'm worried sick for POCs.
Yeah. I'm not just worried for POCs. I'm worried for America.
I
right?
agree. I agree.
There's too much going on. The pot is boiling, so to speak.
Yeah. The melting pot is boiling. Yeah. It's a dangerous world, actually. Which is why I regret bringing on my last guest even more because the things he said.
I think in the future we need to be smarter about
the guests.
who we bring on.
Yeah,
But,
I know.
Yeah. Well, I think we can move on from the sort of Debbie Downer of a topic of George Droid and Derek Chauvin.
Yeah.
You've been plumbing recently.
Yes, I have
Yeah.
been. I have been. So, I realized something, right? So, a lot of people, right? They eat a lot of food, and they, naturally they defecate, right? So there's tons of toilets around the world that are clogged. Yeah. So someone had to unclog these toilets, and Trump has been getting rid of all the plumbers. Right.
Really?
Yeah. He's been getting rid of all the plumbers. So I decided,
Why does he want clogged toilets in America?
I think he does. I think he's a sick man, actually. So I decided I'm gonna stand up and step up, right?
Yeah.
So I stepped up, and I bought a toilet plunger, and I started just taking care of business, actually. And so what I noticed actually was that these toilets. And I don't mean to, harp on topics of past, but these toilets were clogged by sort of Caucasian folk a lot more than any other demographic. I mean, these people.
I mean, so let's talk about that.
Yeah,
let's talk about
they
that.
don't eat fiber. I don't
Because I think
fiber.
there's an epidemiological thing that's going on here, right?
Yeah.
You see, POCs, they know how to season their food.
Yes.
But
yes.
white people, they're eating leaves off a tree, right? They're taking leaves off the tree without any seasoning.
I mean, they put mayonnaise on it, but that's it.
That's about it. And so it would only make sense that their toilets are being clogged.
Yeah, no,
like
it does.
to the brim. Like it's like they sit there and the hairs that dangle down from their bum crack is just seeped in filth.
It's sick.
Yeah.
But that's what they do, and I don't know. I mean, it's giving me a lot of business, but I mean, it's business that should be given to people who people who should be in this country, right? And now I have to step up, and it's I just don't know what to do about it. It's a difficult topic, all right, but I just think these whites they're just making me very upset these days.
Speaking of difficult topics and white people,
yeah.
We both know a person who sort of refuses to engage in anything difficult.
Yeah,
we were just speaking about this before the podcast.
He hates anything difficult. He is white. He may have been on the last episode. He's just anything difficult he gives up, right? He quits anything hard.
So let's dig into that a little bit. What drives a person to become like that? And what are the implications of a person who is like that?
So I think you can use a critical race theoretical lens for this topic, actually. And I learned this in academia. So basically, if you're born white in this country, right, you grow up with something called white privilege, right? And this is something that's taboo. We're not allowed to talk about it. You'll get canceled if you even say anything bad about the whites. But what it is that basically, if you're white and you grow up in this country, you get handed things easily, right? You play a video game and you win all the levels because the game is coded, so you win the levels, right? It's you play chess and you become grandmaster. I mean, that's just how it is in this country.
It's silver platter, right?
Exactly. I mean, they get handed everything. So I think these people, what they don't develop, right? And I'm not saying there's a genetic component to this. I'm not. But what these white people, what they develop is they develop a lack of resilience to difficult things, right? Because they're so used to being handed everything to them.
Yeah.
Where they play a video game. I think there's a recent video game that came out that this person we know both he played it just 6 or 7 hours and he quit because it was too hard for him. Yeah.
Absolutely ridiculous.
Of course.
Well, so let's dive a bit deeper into resilience. So as a student of medicine, there's this area in the brain called the anterior cingulate gyrus.
Wow.
And this area is, let's just say, your resilience center, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if there's any data behind this, but I'm willing to believe that POCs, their anterior cingulate gyrus is probably bigger than like white people.
Of course.
Because, you think of people like David Goggins or any like military person for that matter.
Yeah.
They're putting themselves through things that they do not want to be through.
Yeah.
They're waking up early, they're running.
Exactly.
They're doing all this. Our friend is waking up, going on the game, and struggling at lockpicking.
He is.
He's giving up.
He said he struggled with lockpicking.
Yeah.
He said this.
Let's just say that I played the game and I have yet to die, and I have yet to break a lockpick.
Wow.
And I'm using a controller just like him.
Yeah. I mean, what he said, and I quote, he said, "The novice level lockpicks in this game are harder than the master level in Skyrim." That's what he said.
That we must have been playing a different game. We must have been playing a different game.
I'm just shocked by. I mean, is there a difficulty level in this game he could adjust? I mean,
There's no difficulty level, but I think he's tunnel visioned. You know, he's not thinking outside of the box.
yeah. I mean, he was trying to. I think you said he was trying to steal things while wearing full metal armor.
Yeah. And, you know, this is a simulator kind of game, so, you know, you're wearing full metal armor, going into someone's house, and someone hears you.
Yeah, clickety clack. Yeah.
Like, dude, like, be so for real, you know?
Yeah,
be so for real.
I don't know what's going through his head. I think he genuinely has an underdeveloped part of that brain that you were just talking about. I mean, it's kind. I think it's kind of apparent to me. You know, I mean, resilience is something you have to train, right? And so another more sociological, maybe more geographical explanation for this is actually all the colonization that the white people did for all of history, right? They are not indigenous to this land, right? So this is a land that is, you know, they belong in the ice dweller parts of the world, right? That's why they have pale skin. So they come to this land which has a lot of sunshine, and they lose the resilience that they developed from you know toughing out the cold showers that they used to do.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
And now they're just sunbathing, right? And they're burning their skin.
They're too comfortable.
They're too comfortable. And then, you know, you add on all the, you know, historical, you know, advantages that they've had. You know, I mean, there's just so many factors that leads to, you know, just this behavior from our Caucasian friend.
Yeah, quite frankly, ridiculous. And, you know, even the audience can probably think of an example of a Caucasian person just, you know, taking the easy route.
Of course,
just like those people who are trying to fish for, you know, POCs.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean,
they're not willing to work.
Yeah. They could get a job. They could buy food from a grocery store like a normal person, right? But no. They want to, you know, collect Social Security, and they want to fish for POCs, and it's sick. It's just sick behavior.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just wow.
Yeah. I mean, it's. I don't know what's going on with these white folk, but they've been acting strange, you know.
Yeah.
Since January 6th, they've been emboldened. Yeah.
And wrongfully so.
Yeah, and yeah. I mean, I just don't know what to say. I mean, I think these people. I don't want to, you know, talk about this topic the whole episode because I know we have a lot of POC listeners who are, you know, they're becoming scared, you know, because you hear the word white person. And you have flashbacks like, oh my god, I had an uncle who got, you know, he got caught by one of them fishing hooks, and then we never found him again, dude. He got lost. Yeah,
it's horrific.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. It's a tough world, but you know, at least we're not making light of this topic. We want the audience to know that
we think it's serious.
We think it's serious.
Absolutely serious.
I mean, it's so serious that, like, I mean, like, you know, some, you know, bad faith actor might say, "Oh, they're laughing. Dude, we're breaking down into tears."
Yeah.
As we talk about
this.
Yeah,
literally.
Yeah, I mean,
literally.
It's it's a very difficult topic.
Speaking of actors, have you seen any good movies recently?
Honestly, I have not been watching too many films. But I did watch something. Let me think of the name. I forget the movie, but it was this coming of age movie. There's this kid in the Midwest, and it's he has a white mother, and the white mother gets divorced, and she starts dating this white father, and they go on a trip to some lake, as they often do, probably to fish, to go fishing,
probably.
And then you know, this boyfriend of his mom, not technically stepfather, but I'll just call him a stepfather. You know, they basically they butt heads, they don't get along, and then they that's just the movie. It's about single family households in the white community. Yeah, I think that's what it's about. I didn't finish. Yeah, I didn't finish the movie, but it was very powerful.
Who can finish the movie? No one can really live in that experience except those white people.
Yeah, I mean, they do have, you know, tough upbringings.
Yeah,
but they have a lot of perks. You know, there's two sides to every story. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So if we have any white listeners, we don't hate you, right? We don't. You know, we're just trying to bring light to sort of the nuances of race in America.
Yep.
But you brought up movies. Is there something you wanted to talk about, and more specifically?
No, I mean, I think movies have. Well, so yeah, actually, we all know the Oscar winner for this year was Anora, and you know, I watched that movie. It was a pretty good movie.
Okay. Yeah.
But I'm wondering if movies, as of more recently, have become just pornography. I don't know if you've seen Anora, but the first half of the movie is literally just all sex scenes.
Is that actually?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Like, I'm not even overreacting here.
Is this the Mexican transgender movie or no?
No, that's actually Emilia Perez, which is another topic,
Interesting.
which is I didn't see, but let's just say that they were ridiculed for how bad that movie was.
Yeah. I also read about this online.
Yeah. But even the last year when Poor Things came out with Emma Stone.
Oh yeah.
Again, just another pornographic movie.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
I'm wondering what you
these.
think about that.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually very curious. I don't know what the cause of that might be. I think what it might be is, it could be linked to Jeffrey Epstein.
Mm-hmm.
So Jeffrey Epstein got caught, right? And so all these elites who were engaging in these deviant acts, they lost, I guess, their outlet, right? And I guess now they produce movies. So they spend a lot of money and they tell the writers, put this in a movie, I want to see this.
Now, who are these people exactly?
I think these might once again be white folk. Yeah. But I mean, I think the Mexican transgender movie was something that was a bit odd because how many Mexican transgenders do you know? I
Zero.
Yeah, zero. Yeah, I mean it's usually if there's a transgender, it's usually
a white person.
It's a white person. Yeah. So it's I think they were also an illegal immigrant or something. It was they were checking all the boxes.
They were checking all the boxes in case they wanted to apply to Harvard.
Yeah, I mean, in my head, maybe this is an incorrect assumption, but I thought it was like they thought that the election would be here, and I guess they thought naturally that we would punish Donald J. Trump, and maybe they thought the tide would be there for them to take off.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But it could just be all these producers who would have been going to Epstein's Island. They decided, you know what, now we have more money. Let's spend it on, maybe making films that reenact what we experienced.
Well, do you think Epstein is actually dead?
Do I think Epstein is dead? No, I don't actually think he's dead.
Right.
Yeah, I think he's. I think he went to a country. Sort of somewhere near Egypt, somewhere near Jordan. I think he went somewhere.
That makes the most sense.
Yeah.
I think he's probably there right now, just sipping on some orange juice.
Yeah.
Watching terrors unfold.
Yeah, I think that's what he's doing. It's hard to say what he's exactly doing, but I know he's alive, right? And I know his.
I think we all know he's alive.
And also his girlfriend, his side piece, I guess. Her name is Ghislaine.
Yeah.
Which is very
very odd.
Ghislaine.
Like Ghislaine?
Yeah. It might be the street of the temple he had on his island. Ghislaine.
Is that actually his temple?
He had a temple there.
Right. It's probably close to Ghislaine.
I think the plane was Lolita Express.
Right.
And his girlfriend's name is Ghislaine. It's very odd.
Yeah.
It's out of a movie, dude.
Yeah. I mean, it all makes sense if you think about it.
Yeah. I mean, so all the plot details of Epstein's Island are out of a movie. He disappears, and now all of a sudden, all the stuff that went on in the island is suddenly in movies.
Right.
This all adds up.
That's pretty deep.
Yeah, that's pretty deep.
That's actually I haven't thought about. I wonder what sort of trickle-down effects this is going to have on society as a whole.
Oh, yeah. I think kids are going to watch these movies and they're going to make edits, about, how Epstein was a Sigma.
Yeah. I mean, I think I've already been seeing some. There's one where it was like a video of him and the interrogator was asking Jeffrey Epstein if his penis was in the shape of an eggplant.
Yeah, I've seen this.
And Jeffrey Epstein was like, "Yes, my penis is in the shape of an eggplant." And
Wow.
it started playing these like Brazilian funk, like, and the funny part was that this reel was made in India.
It was. It was
made in India.
That is amazing to hear. And actually, I've been noticing the same thing. So if you go on Twitter, right? So there's a lot of these white supremacist accounts on Twitter these days, and of course Instagram as well. And you'll see a post that's like just literally like a neo-Nazi post, and then you click on the account, and it's like location,
like Gujarat or something. It's like in India.
Gujarat, location New Delhi, dude.
Let's dive into that. Why do you think that's happening?
I have the actual answer to this. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So the money you make from ad revenue on social media, it's pennies to those in the West, right?
Mm-hmm.
And most white supremes in the West, like true white supremacists, are usually, they generally have necks that are the color red, right? So they're not very tech savvy. They don't understand how to edit.
Right.
The Indians, I think just the purchasing power of the U.S. dollar in India is just so much higher than the Indian rupee.
It's exceptional.
Yeah, where like if you make $5 as like a person in the U.S. posting racist memes online, it's nothing, But if you make $5 in India,
You could get a mansion.
yeah, I mean, so you pose as white and you pose white supremacist reels,
Yeah.
and you get followed by all these people who think you're one of them, and it's actually very ironic, I would say. It's a very humorous thing.
Yeah. And the funny part is that the style of the video is so obvious. Like, it's just so obvious that it's not someone from America making that.
Yeah, of course.
Because they have like all this Brazilian funk, the troll face, the skull emoji.
Yeah, I mean, they spell color with a U
Yeah,
sometimes.
like, dude, at least try.
Yeah,
At
yeah.
least try.
Yeah. I mean, there was one account, I think it's like Eurasian Emperor on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
And the Eurasian part, like EUR and an Asian, I mean, it's sort of a dead giveaway, all right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then like during like there's times where they'll post like best like races or like best ethnic groups, and just randomly India will be it'll be on the list,
Yeah.
and I'm like, all right.
I mean, Loki goes kind of hard. I'm
yeah,
not
yeah,
gonna lie.
it's pretty impressive behavior, dude.
It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Indian government might have to start doing some. They might have to put money into like counteracting these people, right?
Yeah,
because
100%.
You'll also see the opposite, right?
Mm-hmm.
You'll see some memes that are like poop G, right? And you assume, oh, this must be some white person, posting.
But it's
this.
actually an Indian posting.
Yeah, it's another.
It's like reverse psychology.
It's literally another
So,
Indian-based account.
Have you heard of the dead internet theory?
I have, I have.
My theory is that it's not actually dead. It's just
Yeah.
all Indian.
It is all Indians. It is, yeah. I mean, as more of them come online, this is how they make money, right?
I saw a statistic,
yeah.
actually, that 80% of India's population is not yet.
Oh yeah, they're not
on
online. They're not
social
online.
media.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's gonna get way worse before.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's gonna be even more. You see these posts and you're like, oh my, these white people that they must hate the Indians, and then you go out in the real world and it's like, I really don't think it's that really checks out. Mm-hmm. And then you click on one of the posts and you click on the location and it's like it's in Kashmir, it's in Punjab or something.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, this is a bit.
And then on the pinned comment will be like Punjab respect button, and it'll have like thousands of likes.
Exactly, yeah. Or it'll be in the friggin' Bangladesh as as it's correctly pronounced.
Yeah.
It'll be a very odd thing. It's a interesting situation. I think India, they're facing sort of internal terrorism from other Indians. Right?
Really?
Yeah. I mean, their own reputation is being damaged by their own citizens.
And it's funny because So you said that, these Indians are making anti-Indian posts.
Yeah, and they're making pro-white posts as
right.
well. Yeah.
They're doing everything just
Yeah.
for a quick buck.
Yeah.
But they are failing to see the repercussions of their actions, because one day, they're making all these posts. Look at the racism against Indians on Instagram right now. Look at the racism against it on Facebook.
Part of me thinks it's just themselves being racist to themselves.
I think so.
Yeah.
The person commenting on an Indian post, yep, location checks out. You check the location of that person.
Yeah.
That person's also from India.
Exactly, right? And if it's not an Indian, it's something that's basically Indian. Exactly. Yeah.
It's a sad state of affairs.
It'll be, I mean, it's a weird thing because, let's say, Modi, that's the Prime Minister of India. Let's say he wanted to counteract this reputation crisis, right? Mm-hmm. He has some very easy strategies, right? Indians, they care about animals. Mm-hmm. They could very easily do some PR moves, like, you know what? Instead of all the rape cases, right? Mm-hmm. Let's spend a bunch of money on animal cruelty or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And then a bunch of white females would be like, "Wow,
they'd be like, yeah, wow,
I want to go to India,"
epic.
right? Yeah, they would love it. Instead, I don't know what they're doing, but I think they're just realizing that the Indian GDP, right, is going up because of these posts. Because these Indians are becoming so wealthy from posting anti-Indian memes that they can purchase more goods by Indian companies.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
It's a very interesting topic.
Yeah. I think that's going to be something that people will talk about years into the future.
Yeah. I think China would have a similar situation if they didn't, use a firewall to block off their people. Yeah. It's very interesting. Yeah. Yeah, speaking of Indians, right? The game chess. Mm-hmm. So the game chess originated in India, I believe.
Really?
Yeah, I think. It had a different name. The pieces had different names. Mm-hmm. But that's where you had the general structure of chess was basically created.
Right.
Recently, chess.com, and they do this thing on Twitter where every couple weeks or months, I don't know how often, they'll post a social media post that's in February they posted a picture of a rook, and they said, come up with different names for the rook, right? And everyone played along. They responded. They're like, oh, the elephant, because I think that's what it used to be called, because in the ancient warfare they would use elephants.
Right.
Yeah. And that's what the rook is based off of.
Okay.
So what happened is this week they posted a picture of a bishop. All right. Uh-huh. And I think Moist Critical made a video about this.
I think I saw. Yeah. I didn't watch the video, but I saw that he was talking about it.
So they posted a picture of a bishop, and they said, "Come up with a different name for this piece." Mm-hmm. And I don't think these responses. I don't think these were Indians, right? Because really? I think the Indians would know that it's an Indian game,
right?
But a bunch of these white folk, they showed up on Twitter and they were like, "It will always be a bishop. You will never take Christian culture away from chess, dude." And
is that real?
Yeah, I have it, dude. We can pull it up, dude. Dude, literally underneath that post.
Uh-huh.
Underneath that, oh yeah, I don't have internet here. I forgot. Underneath that post, if you go on Twitter right now, I want you to pull this up.
I'm pulling it up right now.
Yeah, just look up chess.com bishop, and you will see these posts. It was shocking stuff.
Should I go in the Reddit?
Yeah, let's see the Reddit. They might post screenshots.
Fuck your atheist, gay, race, communism. That's a bishop forever will be.
Exactly. This is. It was literally every single response.
Wow. People really had a hard time with this.
They did. They had a very difficult time with this. I think a lot of them were. I don't think chess.com will post the good stuff. If you go on twitter.com, you might find the real posts. You might find the actual tweet. Yeah, let's see. Let's have you pull this up. Yeah, wait. Click on the actual posts and just read these. These.
It's a bishop. Delete your Twitter account.
Yeah, yeah. Lord Miles posted something. There's that one. There's that one.
Do not rename the bishop and insult Christ.
I will cancel my subscription.
Yikes.
Oh yeah, they kept posting pictures of Bobby Fischer because Bobby Fischer was the first U.S. chess champion, and he became a neo-Nazi when he became like 50 or 40 years old. Yeah. Wow. So there's that. Yeah. Oh yeah. There's a quote from Bobby Fischer right there.
First of all, we have to understand what communism is. I mean, to me, real communism, the Soviet communism, is basically a mask for Bolshevism, which is a mask for Judaism.
Yep. I mean, it's very, yeah, there's a picture from some World War II movie.
Wow, people were really not liking this.
Yeah, they were actually going quite insane. I recommend you watch the Moist Critical video.
I'll have to watch that.
It's very interesting. But yeah, I mean, I think there's maybe a online brain rot culture, maybe spurred by Indians themselves, that has maybe incentivized such behavior.
Yeah, I wonder if the posts that Indians have made of Indians have made white people feel like it's okay to go riding around on a bike with a fishing
yeah.
Or okay to tweet stuff like this. It's ridiculous. Or even okay to come on your podcast and talk about homeless people the way that one white person did.
Exactly. I mean, I think we might be able to blame Indians for a lot of these white folk acting out. I think we might be able to.
I mean, it's a domino effect. It's a butterfly effect.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
I mean, they started making money from these posts. They couldn't see beyond the first order effects, right? They were like, "Oh, I'm raking in these bans,"
but
right?
they don't know what societal, geopolitical effects that this is.
I mean, for them, I mean, they live in a majority Indian country.
Right.
They don't see it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they see it on Twitter, but to them, it's not real. But these POCs in the Western world they're being hooked by fishes.
Yeah.
By fish hooks, right?
They're suffering the consequences of what they are doing.
Exactly.
Right, and they need to pay.
Yeah. I mean, they need to pay. I think we might have to, put some tariffs on India, dude. I think that's what we might have to do. But yeah, I mean, I guess that's that topic. But speaking of chess, and speaking of difficult games for our white friend, I've been playing a lot of chess recently.
I've heard that you were playing with like a Japanese philosopher.
I was playing with a Japanese philosopher.
Well, he's not Japanese. He was studying Japanese philosophy.
He was studying philosophy in Japan and Japanese philosophy. Right now, he is in Eastern Europe trying to help out the Ukrainians fight the war.
Wow.
Not directly in combat, but he's saying a lot of motivational quotes. He's helping them out in other ways.
He actually told me that. He told me he'll wake up at 4 a.m. And in Ukraine, there's no Wi-Fi or anything there.
Yeah, no, they don't have Wi-Fi.
He has to plug straight into some wire or something deep down in a dirty hole.
Yeah.
So that he can look up inspirationalquotes.com.
Wow.
And he can send them to the soldiers.
Yeah, I mean, and I've heard this. So this has actually completely turned around the morale of the Ukrainian military. Like I've heard generals are saying, we were lost. This war was over. And then we had this outsourced Japanese philosopher who is part of the Peace Corps for the U.S. and suddenly he's saying these things to our soldiers that they've never even heard before. Like I heard one quote. Yeah, I heard one quote where he said, "Never give up. You can do this." And these Ukrainians, they hadn't heard this. All they had heard was we're gonna die. Yeah, they had just heard gunshots.
They heard gunshots. But
they heard gunshots.
That guy, yeah, and another quote that he said that I thought was very provocative, and for the original listeners, this will be nothing new. But I think that he told the Ukrainian government. I think he told Zelensky himself right after he met with Trump. Are you listening? Or are you hearing?
Wow, that's actually profound. So he told Zelensky, "Are you listening or are you hearing?" So what he was really telling him there was, you can hear the words I'm saying, but do you understand the depth of what is being said? And oh my goodness, that is. I can't
Profound.
even. It's profound. It's genuinely profound. I mean, there's a similar quote from Zen Buddhism, right? Where I believe, I mean, and of course I'm gonna paraphrase this heavily, but I believe it's a similar expression, and this is maybe where this is where he got it, because Japan has a lot of Zen roots, right? But the quote is, "Do you see it or are you looking at it?" Right? Like, instead, like I mean,
Wow.
like,
Just wow.
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people who, they look at things, but they just can't see,
Exactly.
right? And this actually segues into chess, right? Because in chess,
I mean, it segues into everything that we've really talked
everything
about
in
today.
life, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
because the Indians, they see, the reactions online.
Yeah, but they're not looking.
Yeah, or actually the inverse. Actually, they look
Right,
at the
right.
reaction,
But
but
they're
they
not
don't see,
seeing.
right?
Exactly,
Or in
exactly.
chess, you might look at a game on YouTube where some grandmaster is saying, "Don't do this, don't do that," and you'll see, oh yeah, that all makes sense, right? And then you play the game yourself, and you just can't see, right?
Right.
Because you lack the vision,
Yeah.
right? And so what our Japanese philosopher friend, who I've been playing chess with, I mean, it's just it's a quote that,
It speaks to the soul.
yeah, I mean, it speaks volumes, right?
Yeah.
It speaks volumes, and it's not something that you just hear.
Right.
It's something that you listen to, and I think that's something special. I really do, yeah. But yeah, I've been playing chess with him. Yeah,
That's brilliant.
I have been. Yeah.
Has he been? So I'm wondering how he's able to play chess in a warfare, like in a combat zone.
I think chess is war. I think that I think what he's doing
100%.
is he's learning the intricacies of war, not through combat itself, but through proxies of sorts. And I think his skill and his dedication to the game of chess is, I think it's leading him to, discuss strategy in more of
Yeah.
a philosophical way with these generals and with these soldiers.
Right.
And I think they're just stunned. From all the firsthand accounts I've been hearing, he's blowing their minds. He's like, you realize, you have this king pinned to this. I mean, you have this rook pinned to this king, and now you can't take with this piece. I mean, he's saying these things.
Yeah, but they mean different things.
Yeah,
to,
yeah,
to
exactly.
the soldiers
Yeah.
out there.
I
Wow.
mean, yeah. I mean, I think the work he's doing is special.
Yeah.
In Eastern Europe, I think it's with the Peace Corps.
It's all about. It's
Yeah,
all about.
yeah. I mean, I think the Ukrainians might actually, they might actually win this war.
I think so.
Just because
of his.
Yeah.
Because of his quotes.
Because motivation and mindset, they can make tremendous differences in outcomes. All right. So, for example, these soldiers, I mean, they're all very skilled at doing soldier things, right? They can shoot. They can, they can teabag. They can crouch. They can jump.
But can they listen?
Yeah,
Can they
exactly,
see?
exactly. And when they listen to what's happening in Ukraine, I think, and what our friend is saying to them, I think what they're internalizing is, there's so much more to war than just gunshots, right?
100%.
Like, they might run into a situation where they're faced with, the enemy, right? They might face a Russian soldier. And they might actually, have a moment there to look into the Russians' eyes and say something to them that makes the Russian drop their gun,
Right.
right? And just concede. And I've heard reports of this happening more and more, actually, and it is something special. But yeah. And sort of along the topic of chess, our friend who quits a lot of things. Actually, I just see you pulled up an inspirational quote. Do you mind sharing that with the audience?
Sure, yeah. I think this one, fits pretty well with what he's doing out there. And it reads, "There is no limit to what we, as women, can accomplish."
Wow. And I think that is something, Yeah, I mean, I specifically mentioning women. Reaching out because we already, right? We means everyone, right? We, right? When the Ukrainian soldiers hear this, they already know it's talking about them. But what about the Ukrainian women?
Exactly.
Right? And so the women have a role to play in this war as well. I mean, some of them might be in the military. Some of these, soldiers who, might currently identify as men, they might be struggling with their identity.
100%.
And, he might even be touching them in a way where they've never been touched before, And suddenly they become just filled with emotion.
Yep.
And with that emotion, they can channel that into just pure energy, and they can use that energy to win a war that must be won. That's just
I think it's
amazing.
very powerful.
Yeah.
I commend that Japanese philosopher.
Yeah.
I commend him.
Yeah. I mean, I also completely agree. But yeah, I mean, he's been playing a lot of chess recently, probably to aid his to sort of aid his ability to understand war more in depth. And actually, the white person we were talking about, the guest on the last podcast, the one who quits things with ease, he's not a very resilient man.
Right.
Something that he actually said to me is, so I told him that I've been playing chess.
Right.
And I think this piqued his interest, right? Because chess is it's sort of an intellectual man's game.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, if you play chess, it means you're
very intellectual.
Yeah, I mean, you're on another level, right? I think that's what that means.
Right.
I mean, you understand things beyond the surface, right? So I think he heard this and he was like, I think I should play chess. I think that's what he thought to himself. Right? And
ridiculous.
Lo and behold, he has not made an account. To my knowledge, he hasn't even tried.
I mean, it's sort of clockwork at that point because he couldn't even finish a lockpick in a baby game meant for babies.
Yeah, I mean, for him, I think the issue is in chess you lose frequently, right? If you are at the right level, right? So the right ELO, right, on chess.com, you start at like 400. You become intermediate like 1200 or something. But there's a big gap between there, right? And anytime you plateau, right, you're going to be winning 50% of your games. You're going to be losing 50%. I don't think he can handle this. I think he would cry. I think he'd give up.
Well, it's just kind of like what we talked about, right? He was raised with a silver platter.
Yeah.
Things being fed to him.
Yeah.
But it's this reality that one must face that, sometimes they're going to lose. Actually, most times they're going to lose.
Exactly, yeah. But the losing is how you learn. Right?
Exactly.
When he fails to successfully, steal something in that game, right? I think it's Kingdom Come.
Yeah,
is that?
Kingdom Come 2, yeah.
Yeah. I think in that game, when he fails to steal something, what you would do in a chess game, when you fail to win a game, you go to the game analysis feature.
And you study.
And you study with the engine. The engine tells you, do you have an advantage in this position according to the computer, or did you just make a mistake, right? You'll see the evaluation bar go up and down.
Yep.
Right? It'll show white is ahead, black is ahead.
Yep.
And, I mean, there's a whole other thing about I don't think he likes being black in the game. But, I mean, that's a separate...
That would make sense.
Yeah. But, I think for him, clearly he did not want to learn from his mistakes.
Right.
Because to him, it's all a power fantasy. Because he's had white power all his life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so when he plays chess and he loses a game, or when he steals something in Kingdom Come and then the army all gets alerted, in his head he thinks, "Oh, this game sucks. It doesn't work." He doesn't think, "Oh, why did I not get that to happen? Let me look this up. Oh, it's because I was wearing clickety-clack armor."
100%.
Yeah, maybe I should wear some cloth.
It's like sort of like telling a monkey to nail a hammer on something.
Exactly. I mean,
this just won't work.
Yeah, I mean, this is a guy who used summons in Elden Ring and he still gave up. I mean, it was shocking to me. I mean, I didn't use summons.
Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, it's true. He told me this himself.
Wow.
Yeah, he quit while using summons, so he had help. All he had to do was sit back and just dodge a couple times. That's all he had to do.
That's appalling. I just don't even know what to say at this point.
Yeah, and I even told him, right? I told him, go to that little creepy area and farm the little guys, the little
jellyfish type things.
I think there's these militiamen that give you 1,000 per person. Yeah. And you can just use the wand. Yeah, the wand. Yeah. And just walk around. You can get literally like 20,000 XP in literally 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
he would have reviewed.
He wouldn't do it.
That's the thing about being tunnel visioned, not thinking outside of the box.
Yeah.
You have to be able to adapt, to be flexible.
Exactly, yeah.
That's one of the many things that I've learned being a graduate level medical student.
Totally, yeah.
So,
I mean, I think he's someone he's never going to learn from his mistakes. So I just hope he doesn't make more mistakes because he's.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if I was driving down the street and I saw him to be the one with the fishing hook.
Oh yeah. I could totally see him, being the one trying to catch a POC.
Yeah.
Because he's too lazy to work and he doesn't want to pay for food.
100%.
Yeah, I mean it's sick. It's sick behavior. But anyway, I guess to close off this podcast, let's discuss chess just more broadly, right? Mm-hmm. I want to complain a little bit, right?
Let's hear it.
Yeah, so I have been playing quite a lot of chess recently. I play I would say minimum of 4 games. If it's a busy day, especially if it's late at night, I'm feeling sleepy. On the weekend today, I'm probably going to play 20 games. Okay. And something I've been dealing with, right? And what I'm practicing here is resilience.
Right.
But something that I dealt with is for a while I was at a lower ELO.
Okay.
Right? And I would play these people. I would win like 65% of my games. I was making slow and steady progress, moving up the ranks. And then last Saturday, I played an online tournament. And in this tournament, suddenly I was beating, not consistently, of course, but suddenly I was winning games against these guys who were more than double my rating.
Wow.
Yeah, it was surprising. I beat like more than that. I think I beat 6 or 7 guys who were rated double my ELO on chess.com.
So did you just get good?
So the thing is, in my head, I was like, wow, I unlocked something here.
Right.
All right, so I shot up like 200 points.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I was like, you know what? Now I'm not going to play these tournaments because in a tournament you play these higher level guys.
Right.
So when you play like a normal play now feature, you play guys somewhere within your rating range. Mm-hmm. So I was like, oh, if I'm beating these guys, let me go down to the normal level and I'm going to wipe the floor with them.
For sure.
Suddenly I go down there and I'm 50-50.
Wow.
I go back to a tournament and I'm not 50-50 against the higher guys because obviously or else I would be that rating. Mm-hmm. But I'm close to 40 or 50% with them. So naturally, you would think if you're close to 50% against a certain skill level, it means you're at that skill level. That's how the rating system works. But then suddenly I go back down to the normal folk where I'm matched with, and suddenly I'm just completely average.
I wonder why that is.
I wonder if there's. I don't know if there's psychological reasons. Maybe I get careless. I've been trying to study my tape, right? Trying to understand I haven't figured it out yet, but maybe we can discuss this out loud.
Yeah.
I can't seem to figure out why I can beat better people, and then I stoop to the level of my opponents in a way. Yeah.
Well, it might be like you said, a sort of psychological aspect. Sometimes when you see the word tournament, or you feel like, oh, I'm doing a tournament, you're naturally just gonna perform better.
Yeah.
But when you're relaxed, playing whatever that lower tier non-tournament is, you kind of stoop to that level. I think that's totally reasonable.
Yeah. I think that's true. I think what it might be is so when I face these higher level guys, so your rating changes. They have a cap, so it's not too crazy, but if your rating changes based on the level of your opponent, so in these tournaments I'd be playing these guys very high rated, and so if I lose, I don't lose any points. I stay the same. If I win, I gain like 20 or 30 points. Whereas normally it would be like I gain 9, I lose 9.
Yeah.
And if I draw, I lose like 1 or 2, or I might gain some, right? So against these higher level guys, I think there's no fear of losing.
Right.
I think that might be what it is. And what happens there is I think I take my time because normally, I play a timed game. I play a 10-minute time control. Maybe I should play longer. But I play the 10-minute time control. And against these guys, I was not worried about losing on time. I was like, I want to make the best moves because I want to make this a game.
Right.
All right. And against these lower level guys, I'm worried because a lot of them play fast.
Yeah.
And then I take my time. I take quite a lot of time. So I move kind of fast, and I think it increases my chances of a mistake. And usually when I lose, it's just something stupid. So,
Yeah.
I'm trying to practice resilience, unlike the whites, and I'm trying to.
I think that's super relatable.
Yeah.
At least from what I was doing taking that test.
Oh, yeah.
When I was taking that test, I found that whenever I would move fast, I would make stupid mistakes.
Interesting,
And
yeah.
that's why I wouldn't be getting the score I would.
Yeah.
I found that, during the last week before the big actual real step 2 test,
Wow.
meditating was the thing that I needed to do the most. It wasn't studying the books. It wasn't watching videos. It wasn't really anything. It was actually just sitting down with a candle on for 2 hours,
Wow.
breathing, like
Wow.
mindfully breathing. And so when I went into that test, when I took that test, I was the most calm I had ever been while studying.
Wow.
When I would take like practice tests and stuff, which is a bit different from yours because, there is no risk of losing, but there is also a risk of
Getting
losing,
the question wrong.
Getting the
Right,
question
yeah,
wrong,
yeah.
and also just like self confidence, going down if you do rubbish on a practice test.
Of course.
I found that, when I go in to the test with high energy, meaning I feel like I'm overconfident or I
Interesting.
feel like pretty nervous, any kind of high energy, I would not perform at the best. But, in your example, when you're going into these tournaments where there's no lose, you can take your time, or when I'm going into this test where I can, be calm, have an empty mind, a quiet mind, and just take the test as if you were a monkey sitting in a steamed bath.
Wow.
I think that's when you perform the best. Humans are not meant to go into high stress situations with high stress souls. They're
That's
meant
true.
to go into
That's
that
true.
with quiet, empty souls.
This is very interesting, actually. I think you might be completely right about this. I
Yeah.
think I need to be more headless when I
I
play,
think so, too.
right? Because I think when I play these skilled players, I sort of fall into a flow state where
Right.
I know who I'm up against. And so the uncertainty is gone, right?
Right.
Whereas at my level, I could face someone who is very volatile. It might be someone really good. It might be someone really bad. I might have an easy game. I might have a difficult game. It might be in the middle.
Yeah.
Whereas when I play these other people, all the uncertainty is gone. I know it'll be difficult.
Yeah.
So I know what the expectations are, and so I think there might be, I think there might be too many thoughts actually in my head, and I need to learn to be more headless during the hours that I play chess.
100%.
Yeah.
I think, being headless, as the name of this podcast implies, is being able to accept that something is going to be difficult. Being able to accept that something might not go your own way.
Wow.
You think of people like the former podcast guest who is not really all that headless, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean,
he's going around telling homeless people that, they're not with whatever they are or anything, or they're playing video games and, they're not accepting how difficult it is. The true headless will, play those video games, take that test, play that chess game without any preconceptions of what it's going to be like.
The loss becomes a learning opportunity, right?
Exactly.
Because in the headless culture, right? What and I think this is a great topic to close on. In the headless culture, what you learn is that thoughts are, when people say headless, they mean that your thoughts, they're just things that arise in any given moment, right?
Right.
If you get killed in Kingdom Come, you don't suddenly have these thoughts about, oh my god, I suck at this game sucks. This is not the headless way. All right. The headless way is you let's say you make a mistake, you die, and you're like, you see? Exactly. And for the true headless listeners, they will understand what just happened. I mean, I think everyone listening to this will have listened to what we said.
Yep.
But not everyone heard what we said.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I think that is the perfect way to conclude this episode of the Headless Hour. Thank you all for listening. Any final words from the King Plunder?
No, it was great to be back here with you. I'm hoping to be back on another episode, but thank you all for listening.
Wow. All right. Let us know what you guys think about this in the comments. We recorded this with one microphone. I'll try my best to mix it, but hopefully this went well. All right. Peace out, everyone. Goodbye.